Story 1. Cheating is anything you would do with someone interested in you that you would not feel comfortable doing in front of me. Story 2. Venting about your partner to someone you are attracted to is often the first step toward emotional cheating, even if people tell themselves it is just talking. Story 3. Choosing other people over your partner. You do not have to ditch everyone, but your relationship should feel like a priority. I am not saying every friendship is suspicious, but if you are hiding conversations or downplaying someone's role in your life, that is telling. Story 4. What I consider cheating or disloyal that most people might not. Emotional availability to someone else. When you are venting to another person of the opposite sex about your relationship, seeking comfort or validation from them instead of your partner. That is crossing a line. Also, hiding things you know your partner would not be okay with, even if it is not physical. If you have to hide it, it is disloyal. Constantly entertaining the what if with other people, whether it is through likes, flirty messages, or even jokes about being single. That mindset chips away at trust. Story 5. Following and admiring other women online and liking their pictures is disrespectful and hurtful to the partner. Apparently, it is something that just has to be accepted because it is considered normal. Now, Story 6. I have never been married, but a deal breaker for me was when he became close to another woman. There was some sexual activity via the internet, but he was also sharing intimate confidences that I had thought were just between us. Story 7. I think emotional neglect can be just as damaging as physical infidelity. Trust is more than just staying faithful. Story 8. For me, it is lying by omission. Not being told something extremely important that any reasonable person would consider they must tell their partner, or deliberately designing your answer to be ambiguous and leaving out the pertinent facts. Just because you did not say anything does not mean you did not lie. Story 9. Having been single for so long, considering these issues is new and important for me to adjust to. This discussion is helpful to read. Story 10. Hiding things for no reason. For example, adding someone on social media but lying about where you met them, how you know them, or just in general anything would be suspicious. Story 11. People should have this conversation with their partners truthfully. It varies a lot, and it is best that you do not just assume you are on the same page. If your ideas of cheating do not align, you may want to reconsider the relationship. I told my husband he is allowed to date other women, but only if I die. He must wait through a 20-year grieving period. Her name is Gertadella Marino Bean, and she has multiple rows of teeth like a shark. Story 12. If you need to hide it, delete it, lie about it, or deny it ever happened, you have crossed the line. Story 13. You and your partner have morals and values that should be discussed when entering a relationship. Anything that goes against these or is dishonest in terms of expectations is cheating and lying. Everyone has different values. You should never force yours on another or expect theirs to change because of you. Story 14. I find it disrespectful when my time and efforts are wasted. If you do not respect me or my time, then you are disloyal to me and disrespectful of our relationship. Story 15. Your wife chatting with a man in the European Union who buys her feet pictures. Suddenly, she wants to watch him masturbate to her pictures as she watches and have conversations about what he would do to her. That ended my marriage. Ending it made me the bad guy because we tried to swing at one point and find her a partner. Even though, in the end, I found out she was afraid of loving me and tried to cheat twice. But I am the bad guy, right? She tried to hurt me even more when it was over. And my not caring upset her so much that I basically had to start over in life. But knowing where she is now, since I know her so well, I am glad. Story 16. Talking to former partners, keeping in touch with them and their family, texting and messaging them is not okay and is emotionally unfair to a current girlfriend, fiancé, or wife. Story 17. Actively keeping contact with past flings, situationships, or hookups is uncommon. On very rare occasions, I understand staying in contact with an ex, although I am not a huge fan of it. What reason would there be to keep contact with someone you had a casual sexual relationship with? This includes following each other on social media and engaging with their posts and stories. It might seem harsh, but I learned my lesson on this one the hard way. Story 18. Funny how the use of pornography dramatically increases the likelihood of physical infidelity later on. Directing sexual energy away from your partner and investing it in pornography is disloyal. Repeatedly objectifying other women is highly problematic. Just because it's behind a screen doesn't mean it's any less of a betrayal, especially when done repeatedly in secret. Thank goodness people are talking openly about the damaging effects of pornography on relationships. If both partners are okay with it, then whatever works for them. More often than not, however, one partner engages without the knowledge or consent of the other, and that is not acceptable. Story 19. Flirting, even if it is casual or joking with a friend of the opposite gender, requires careful consideration. If you flirt with someone while you have a significant other, you need to think about whether you would be comfortable if your partner were treated the same way or flirted in the same manner. Story 20. Buying pornography or making it your entire life, with nudity that is hurtful to your partner, front and center on your devices, is disrespectful. Story 21. I would honestly be more upset if I caught my husband taking another woman out for a nice dinner than if he just had sex with her. A one-time casual encounter I can forgive, but taking her out for a fancy dinner date while I am sitting at home bored means you are in serious trouble. Story 22. For me, going out with someone of the opposite sex without telling your partner, then posting pictures and getting defensive when asked is disloyal. Also, forming deep emotional bonds with someone else, constantly chatting or confiding in them, and then calling it just friendship crosses a line. Emotional cheating is real too. Story 23. Not blocking people who slide into direct messages with obvious sexual interest is understandable. It is fine not to respond, and I understand it does not equate to physical cheating, but if you did not like it and did not gain anything from it, you would just block them altogether. Story 24. Not necessarily cheating, but I hate when I am having a conversation with someone and they add a random person without asking. This happened to me recently and makes me feel like I am not good enough to hold their attention. Story 25. Anytime you watch another naked person outside of our relationship, it is cheating to me. So strip clubs, OnlyFans, and pornography are all cheating to me. To counter, I do not read erotica, I do not watch softcore content like Bridgerton, and I do not do it. I think it is cheating while in a relationship. I am not a hypocrite. Flirting is cheating too. Story 26. Taking a woman you have a history with to the Tin Top Antique Fair when you know I love that type of event, and you have never taken me or shown any interest in going with me when I plan it. We have been married for years, and that still hurts. Story 27. Paying for adult content. Watching free adult content is not ideal, but actively paying for a particular performer can lead you to believe you have a connection with them. After that, things tend to deteriorate. Story 28. Supporting a person of the opposite sex, choosing their side over mine publicly, any conversations that I would not approve of or that I have no knowledge of, physical touch with the opposite sex, celebrity crushes, or any crushes for that matter. Basically, getting close to anyone of the opposite sex or putting them over each other. I am sure there are smaller things. My wife and I are very no-nonsense with these kinds of things. Nicknames like work wife or work husband. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, but I cringe every time I hear people use those terms. Story 29. If you think it is not cheating because it is not a real person, it is because you do not see adult film performers as people. Absolutely not, because I do not want to be with someone who dehumanizes people's bodies for pleasure. Story 30. I knew my ex was emotionally invested and involved with another man after she frequently mentioned his name. The more she talked about him and being around him, the more damaging it became. Story 31. Sharing daily thoughts and everything exciting that happened during the day with someone else on a very frequent basis. Also sharing something that bothers you with another person. It does not matter if it is a small thing or a big thing. If it involves you, it is even worse. Everything emotional and intimate. Story 32. Anything involving interacting with sex workers, such as paying for OnlyFans, going to a strip club, or getting a lap dance. Story 33. Some people have open relationships and manage to continue a long-term partnership. Some couples seem to live completely separate lives and only need the assurance that there is someone back at home who supports them. Others need complete openness, honesty, and incredibly close relationships, where they are very involved in each other's lives. Then there is everything in between, not even considering childhood trauma and other factors that affect what people need from a relationship. Cheating and disloyalty are outward signs that something has gone wrong in the relationship, and that could mean anything. In an open relationship, sex would not be considered disloyalty as long as it fits within the framework decided by the couple. A simple act of doing something that a person would normally do with their partner could be considered cheating and disloyalty because of what it means to the people involved. So, I think it all comes down to the fact that in a healthy relationship, communication is key. Understanding what the other person wants and needs to feel secure and to trust their partner is fundamental. The moment one or the other steps outside this framework, they are not valuing the relationship. That is disloyalty. Story 34. I just want to know some opinions on this. We regularly went to a gym where the owner would constantly try to hit on her or talk with her when she just wanted to work out. She never led him on and told me multiple times she didn't like him. A few months later, her dog tragically died. When she was at the gym without me, the owner saw she was visibly sad, offered her coffee and a hug, and tried to chat with her. This seemed fairly normal, except I had a feeling it was just another attempt to hit on her and that he was taking advantage of her feelings. I heard about this months later when I saw they followed each other on Instagram. I asked her why he followed her and she followed him back, considering her account was private and she didn't like him since he hit on her all the time. I felt uneasy, though maybe that was my problem. Later, we had a big fight about this. I told her to remove him from her Instagram. She snapped and said she wouldn't remove him because she didn't want to be told what to do. A week or so later, she said she had unfollowed him and accepted his follow purely because she was afraid he would constantly bring it up at the gym and ask why she wouldn't follow him back. But she didn't want to do it because I had told her to. 2 years later, it still makes me feel uncomfortable. I would unfollow anyone if my girlfriend told me that girl was hitting on me. Am I wrong? Story 35. Keeping your options open, also known as he is just a friend. These days, it is kick them to the curb, let me do it or I am out. Story 36. People who spend a lot of time with and are very touchy with the opposite gender while in a relationship often hear others say, "You need to grow up. Every relationship is different," but this behavior is something most relationships are not okay with until much later. Story 37. Kissing is a very intimate act to show affection. If I saw my husband kissing another woman, I would be devastated because to me it would mean he has an emotional connection with her that he should only have with me. Story 38. Venting to others should not include specific and intimate details of their partner's sexual abuse. I cannot believe how many disloyal people do this or describe their genitals. Story 39. If a girl decides to keep a baby despite an agreement beforehand that there should be no baby, that is very upsetting. I could never trust that person. Story 40. When she has a female friend that she calls her best friend forever and also her platonic soulmate, but claims she is monogamous and loves the man she is dating, if her female friend is her best friend, then what does that make her boyfriend? If her female friend is her platonic soulmate, then what does that make her boyfriend? How would she feel if her boyfriend had a very attractive best female friend whom he called his platonic soulmate? Most people are completely comfortable with this dynamic. To me, it is 1000% cheating in plain sight. Story 41. This is not always bad, but every time they receive a phone call, they quickly leave the room. However, my ex was older by over a decade, so maybe that was his way of dealing with everyone. Still, I am in the generation where it looks suspicious, baby. Story 42. A lot of people in this thread are wildly insecure. It is much worse than I thought. Why does everyone both relentlessly need to be the main character and the object of fixation, while also constantly being buoyed up here? Story 43. Dancing closely with someone else. I don't go to clubs anymore, but when I did, I considered that cheating. Story 44. I have very strict rules for my partner, but also for myself. I think these rules are too strict for most people. For example, even kisses on the cheek of friends, chatting with men in a non-superficial way, having a male friend, having contact with ex-partners, partying, or flirting a bit with a man on the street are not allowed. However, I am equally strict with myself. Some people appreciate that, others get upset. Story 45. Betrayal begins the moment someone decides to start giving away parts of themselves in secret without honesty or accountability. Story 46. I have always looked down on cheating. Years ago, I asked a coworker why he was always unfaithful to his wife. He responded that he had gone 4 years without any intimacy, and because they had children, he did not want to leave her. I understood that. Story 47. I think there's a certain degree of prioritizing someone of the opposite sex who isn't your significant other that gets a side eye from me. It hasn't happened to me, but a man in my Dungeons and Dragons group was starting to see someone and got dumped only a month or so in because of his relationship with his close female friend. My husband and I used to be roommates with this man, and that friend had come over to our house multiple times to hang out with him in his bedroom at midnight. She was married with children. To be honest, despite the fact that everyone on the internet might assume they were sleeping together, there were some things that made me uncertain. In any case, if I were her husband, I would find that highly inappropriate. Apparently, the friend who was our roommate abandoned whatever he and his new girlfriend were doing to go rescue this friend from a panic attack. I don't know where her husband was, and I didn't ask, but once again, I thought that was a bit much for someone who was married to ask of him. It was definitely a bit strange that he just did it without hesitation. Apparently, his girlfriend thought so too, which led to the breakup. I was the only one at the table who thought she was completely justified in doing so. Story 48. This is really hard, but I would have to say the biggest thing is joking flirtatiously with anyone other than your significant other. In all of my relationships, that kind of joking was actually their way of dropping hints about wanting more from our relationship. Story 49. As I get older, I care less and less. When I was a teenager, looking at someone else was cheating, then it was flirting, then touching, then kissing, then cuddling. I am 38 now, and as long as my partner is not having intercourse, I do not consider it cheating. You have one life, live it. We are not ducks, and we were never meant to be. Story 50. Really, anything you feel you need to hide from me. If you did not on some level think it was crossing a line, then you would not feel the need to hide it. Story 51. I have the opposite view, which I believe comes from some Asian cultures that seem odd to Westerners who cannot understand it. I think it is most prevalent in Japan, but I also know of a few other countries in the region. If my husband paid for services from a prostitute, that would be acceptable to me if I were aware of it, done openly and possibly after discussing it. We do not see that as cheating because he is simply paying for a service from a professional, with no emotional attachment. Story 52. Talking to and answering messages from people who have a crush on or feelings for your partner, and your partner is aware of it, could include exes, past sexual flings, or friends from university, as was the case with all three in my experience. My recent ex even admitted that she enjoyed the validation of knowing these people wanted her. While she never cheated, she was being borderline flirty and said she just played. Story 53. Flirty banter and jokes. And if you are seeking or enjoying validation from another man, I have always said you are free to do anything you want. I just want to know about it so I can use my own freedom to leave. Story 54. My ex and I had a fight because I saw, I think by the grace of God, that she was direct messaging a guy she used to date, maybe 3 dates a few years ago. On the surface, it was a congratulation on the new house, but they continued to talk after that. It's nice, I guess. Sometimes you don't connect romantically and want to keep someone as a friend on social media, and a congratulation or happy birthday would not bother me. But continuing the conversation crossed the line in my opinion. Story 55. A spouse quitting their job to be a stay-at-home wife and mother without discussing it with their partner, or explicitly against their partner's wishes to maintain a single-income household. Story 56. My wife would be more upset if I went bowling with another woman and shared laughter than if I had an affair with an escort. Story 57. If a man comes home and there is no dinner available and he goes out to eat at a restaurant, is that cheating? If he comes home and there is no beer in the refrigerator and he goes out to a bar, is that cheating? If he comes home and there is no love or intimacy in the bedroom and he goes out to get some, is that cheating? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.